deliver Turkmenistan natural gas to communist China and India, to make more of Macy's merchandise, Walmart widgets, and CVS perfume, with slave labor,
Yeah.
deliver them under the Golden Gate Bridge in containers, so my friend Willie Brown could distribute to his brown, green, gay Chinese, wine, religion,
Organized crime.
unconstitutional wars, and organized crime, and sex organized crime machine, and 1% protection racket. Okay, that's as far as I've come in 15 years of working at this project. To give you a little summary, that's what I'm dealing with, is the people who are all taking advantage of this corruption and treason. And in fact, that used to be my farm over here along the highway. These guys moved in because I gave them an easement across my property to protect 60 trees that used to be right there on the other side of that fence. 60 Douglas fir trees, just like those big tall trees over there. There's 59 in that grove. That's the last grove on this ridge that I own. And at one time, this ridge is wall-to-wall fir trees. There's a little baby fir tree right behind Tony there. There's one right here between Maria. There's two of them right here. I mean, they grow in this ground like anything, like nobody's business. What's that?
The tall ones are the Douglas firs, right?
Yeah,
John?
right.
How old are those trees, you think?
Probably about 125 years old.
Neat.
And those trees and these 60 trees that were here are left over because those were sheep pens. When I first came here, that knoll right there and this area right here had a sheep fence around it. And in the old days when they planted the apples, first they planted cherries, then they planted apples, which was the fresh fruit. Gravenstein apples, the fresh fruit of San Francisco before refrigeration. Every grandmother made applesauce, as did mine. Then refrigeration came along and the Gravenstein apple, the market just went dead because everybody wanted to have a winter apple which kept you. There's no way possible to keep a Gravenstein apple. If you don't cook it within 6 weeks, forget it. It ain't gonna keep. But it is clear the best, and this tree right here is probably one of the biggest, oldest Gravenstein apple trees. It's the biggest one I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And it's still producing apples.
That's so cool.
But anyway, I don't know how I got on this subject. But these trees, these fir trees were all taken down to build San Francisco. Hauled down to the railroad at Drayton and put on flat cars, or there was a couple mills here, between here and Forestville, and taken down to Petaluma to get on a barge and then hauled into San Francisco to build San Francisco. San Francisco burned down 3 times before they started using masonry. It's all wood. And the redwoods came from, firs came from this ridge to frame the buildings, and then the siding came from redwood trees out in Guerneville. A separate railroad that went into San Rafael. And that's great old history. And the barn that used to take care of the stock to pull those trees down, Rachel remembers, was over here, old pole barn. And these sons of bitches tore it down. I mean, really historic piece. And they tore down the 2-story house that Rachel used to live in. That had the master bedroom upstairs so you could look out and see Santa Rosa. Tore it all down. And
how long ago was that, John?
8.9 acres. The first acres were sold, so they were where Rosa lived was November 4th of 2009. And then where you lived was August 25th of 2010. And then the horse pasture over here was in April 21st of 2011. And each time, Mary and I and anybody I could get would go before the Board of Supervisors and say, you can't do this. There's no court order. This is theft. You can't do this. This is the county of Sonoma stealing my property for organized crime. And these guys are in the winery business. And they own that property next door, all cash. They built that winery, all cash. Where'd the cash come from?
Organized crime.
Money laundering. These guys make good wine. And you can't buy it around here anywhere. It goes in containers to Argentina.
Wow.
And in those containers are bags of marijuana.
Oh.
And once those containers are locked inside the Paul Hobbs Winery warehouse, they're never opened again. They're never inspected until they get somewhere, Argentina or somewhere. And when they're down in Argentina, they get filled with Argentine wine, which Paul Hobbs distributes. And it's got whatever heroin, whatever it's got coming up from down there. It's called drug smuggling. And that's a huge business. And I call this the addiction industry controlled county of Sonoma. That's what I'm dealing with. And anyway, so that's a little background here. And now it's taken me, the last seizure of the property was April 21, 2011. This is 5 years it's taken me to get my act together to go after these sons of bitches and get my properties back. And that's what this process is here. Explaining it to you, and you ask questions, and it gives me new ideas. You ask questions, I look at different perspectives. So I'm really concerned that you understand every detail of this. And help me get it right here.
Oops.
And here's Miguel.
How you doing, John? Sorry.
Hi.
Could you please turn that on?
Yeah. Okay, I'm working. I can't talk right now. I don't know. I gotta turn my phone off. We're in the middle of a meeting. Bye.
And so what I look for are openings to get this thing corrected. And this is a huge opening here. We made public comment. Okay, that's for the next item. On this item here, this is Donald Trump last Friday. He's been beating around the bush. He wouldn't endorse Paul Ryan, who is the most powerful man in Congress. He's the Speaker of the House. He got his job in December because the previous Speaker, John Boehner, and Paul Ryan are traitors. They and Hillary Clinton and 371 other members of the 107th Congress authorized the President of the United States. Do we have any of that evidence around here? Okay. Rich, could you go in, Chris, could you please go into my office and get both of those exhibits, boxes of exhibits?
Yeah. It's getting a bit crowded over in that corner. Well, I'll just move it right
And so he finally, after, and I thought Donald Trump is a breath of fresh air, he's finally going to expose the highest level of organized crime, which is unconstitutional wars, irrational choice, never necessity for fascist gain, and damn if he isn't one of them. Because last Friday he endorsed John McCain to run for Senate again, Paul Ryan, pardon me?
Oh, no.
And Paul Ryan to run in Wisconsin. Now, Paul Ryan's election is Tuesday, and I think McCain's is also. And in fact, the document we're going to look at says that neither one of them are qualified to hold any office in the United States. Okay, it's taken me 5 years to put this together, these two things together. And I have a few more to support this. But this makes me armed. So when I tell this story to somebody, I can say, here's the proof right here. And I'll start out by showing you Martial Law 107243. Section 3, authorization for the use of United States Armed Forces. Up here it says short title, this joint resolution may be cited as the authorization for the use of military force against Iraq, resolution 2002. And then down below the page it says, instead of saying martial law against use of force, use of martial law, instead of use of military force, it authorizes the use of armed forces. And armed forces include all the military, and every cop, every deputy, every firefighter with a gun, okay, anybody with a gun, including every CIA hired mercenaries. People don't realize that we, the people, are supporting 250,000 mercenaries in Afghanistan and Iraq right now. Mr. Obama has pulled the troops out, you know, we're not killing our troops like we used to anymore. No, we're hiring mercenaries. And they're foreign mercenaries. They work in countries where they can hardly get a meal. And they can buy them cheap, give them a gun and a uniform, and they're killing for us. It's just, it's sickening, but that's what's going on. And between that and our going into Iraq, based on this law, to basically do two things. Get big oil operating in Iraq, which they weren't, still aren't, and kill all them Muslims that killed nearly 3,000 Americans on 9/11, which is a lie. Can you go back in there and get the, it's right there where I sit down on my left down there, you'll find the one that has a picture of the controlled demolitions. And it's the exhibits. I'm sorry I didn't bring them out. There are 32 pages there just clipped together. And I don't even have a picture of this controlled demolition in here. This is all about my problem with these clowns here in the local courts.
I have one on my binder.
Pardon me?
I have a binder that has one right there.
Can you get it, please?
Sure.
Oh yeah, I have one right here. I got it. Oh, that's not a color picture, but
Yeah.
Now what is it?
it says America's collapsing. This is a picture of the South Tower,
Yeah.
I remember
Tower.
that day too.
and this is the North Tower right alongside it here. Yeah, here we go. You can see it a little easier in color. This is the North Tower, this is the South Tower. These are 110-story massive steel structures. They came down in 10 seconds. And they're claiming Al-Qaeda did that. And it so happens, I can show you here that there were 2,749 unplanned occupants in these two structures. Because had the attacks, the aircrafts flying into these towers, been 41 minutes earlier as Ken Lay planned, the doors would have been shut. The New York Fire Department was on call to clear all people out of the buildings. And had it gone as Ken Lay planned, there would have been no fatalities in these demolitions. And what you're looking at here is dust from asbestos. These buildings are so loaded with asbestos. The Port of New York and New Jersey had been trying to demolish these buildings for years, to take them down and rebuild new buildings. All buildings are owned by corporations, and they've depreciated, you know, and they get to write off their expenses and all this and that. When the building is fully depreciated,